Yay. Okay, and we'll get started here. I'm so happy once again to be doing a informational chat with our friend Lori Dine from Mercy Health. Hi, Lori.
Hi.
And we're joined today by Rhonda White. She's the manager of clinical research for Mercy Health. Hi, Rhonda.
Hi, so glad to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to talk to you. So this is, I think, a really interesting topic. And there might be a niche group of people who are really fascinated by what this is all about. But when you work in clinical research, tell us a little bit about what that means.
Sure. My role, I'm the manager of several types of research. So we have oncology, of course, cardiology, infectious disease, neurology, and pulmonary. So we have lots of different projects going on at all times. But focusing on oncology, we have lots and lots of different trials. So we have trials that, of course, we can infuse different kinds of drugs. We can infuse in immunotherapies, but it also can look at the effects that cancer has, like on social issues or a family. So we have a study that's open right now that looks at financial effects or smoking cessation, like trying to get people help and support to stop smoking. There's also things about gene expression and learning more about different cancers and how different genes interact with those cancers. And my favorite is increasing communication between the patients and the doctors. So that one's a really, those types of trials are really important as doctors learn more and more about patients, and especially survivorship. As patients live and have a survivorship past 5 years, like what other things do they face? Do they face neuropathy? Do they face going back to work? Do they face depression? There's lots of things we can look at, and how do we make that person who fought cancer, and how do we make that person more successful for the rest of their lives? Because now it's not as life limiting as it was a long time ago. There wasn't so many things to offer patients. So there's a lot of different ways to look at clinical trials, and we do a lot of different ones, especially ones for being a patient advocate and increasing awareness about the things that cancer patients might face.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that too, because the relationships that people form when they go through cancer are something that certainly we at the Victory Center hope that they carry with them, whether it's someone who was diagnosed with the same disease or if they just shared that experience with them from the beginning. So it's nice to know that the doctors are trying to do their best to make themselves available for questions and to continue to form those relationships. And I got to go back because you said that you do research on infectious diseases as well. How was your experience through this pandemic?
I think the pandemic really focused the public and people who never heard of patient zero and things like that. It really put the focus on research and how important it is. So with our hospital at St. Vincent Mercy Health, we did a lot of convalescent plasma studies. We're always, looking for the newest ways to treat something. So even if it's just standard of care practice, so even in nursing, like we used to treat at the beginning of the pandemic a patient a certain way, but then all of a sudden, within 3 months, we changed how we were treating that patient. Hey, this isn't working, this is better. And then we just kept, as we learned more, we grew and started to put those things into practice. So we were actually in nationally recognized physician magazine for some of the work we did with convalescent plasma. So we were very busy. None of us got to stay home. So very, very busy, making sure we're increasing that information that research can provide and finding the best treatments that are out there.
That's
and
fantastic.
enrolling in COVID studies now. So even though COVID seems to be on the downswing, I think in the future, there'll be a lot of things talking about the effects that COVID had long-term. So.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope the conversation keeps going. And that's what we're doing today, is just continuing talking and keeping that window open for folks. For someone who's curious, certainly a survivor or someone who's metastatic, maybe someone who's going through this cancer journey, what sort of eligibility should they be looking for when they're trying to find a clinical research study that might be a good fit for them?
So the best place to start is with your physician. They are usually, we are very close to our physicians who work in oncology. We are literally, my nurses are down the hall from both at St. Anne's and in Perrysburg. So we are very much a part of the meetings that go on with physicians at Mercy Health. So your oncologist should have information. And if you just wanted to talk about someone about oncology research, or if you would be eligible for one of those studies, you can always call us at 419-251-4919. That's our clinical research office. And we'll get you in touch with the closest clinical research nurse to contact you.
Mhm.
We've also been doing a lot of things with our nurse navigators and informing them of our clinical trials. So they're also a great resource for a patient to reach out to. So nurse navigators are very helpful in the whole process. And this is just one thing that we have to offer.
Lori, this whole process, it's so much information. We feel that all the time when someone comes to the Victory Center, we're handing them a folder with paperwork and pamphlets and meeting times and dates, and it's a lot. How have you found that it's easier to disseminate the information, give it to somebody when they're ready, right? Because that's an element of it as well, and to make sure that it's all well understood and digested.
Well, I think I've said before in one of our talks, the statistic that always blows me away about how cancer patients only retain about 10% of the information that they're given at appointments. So repetition is key. And then the fact that our oncology program is always referencing our multidisciplinary approach to cancer care, meaning that so many different people who serve so many different roles are in contact and helping with the treatment process for patients, that you're bound to see somebody at some point that's going to say, you could benefit from this clinical trial. We'll see if you're eligible. We'll connect you with research, or even connecting people to the Victory Center, and then the Victory Center informs patients of things that are available to them. So by having that comprehensive multidisciplinary approach, and by having the Victory Center at our Perrysburg Cancer Center, there's always going to be somebody looking out for the best interest of our patients.
Absolutely. And I've never met a better group at advocating for themselves. Whether it's the cancer patient themselves or a feisty family member, we're getting phone calls and we're making sure that we're sharing that information as much as possible because they do a great job of advocating for those things. And like Rhonda said, talking to people to find out what is out there and available for them. So I think that's great.
Absolutely.
Job as an RN was working on the oncology floor, and I was chemo certified. And people would ask me, is it sad to deal with cancer patients? Because they had a totally different viewpoint. And I said, it has been the most uplifting and rewarding experience. And they are some of my favorite patients to take care of. You know why? Because they always bring hope. Every day, every treatment, it doesn't matter. They brought hope to that. And they brought tenacity, they brought, self-determination, and then love, just love, and it was always amazing. I still remember so many things about the patients I took care of, and that was in 2008 when I started. So, I have mementos that they have given me, and it has really influenced my nursing practice. And to come now to be involved in clinical research and trials where we're trying to find cures, and we're always, trying to do our best for those patients and find out more about cancer, and to find out more about how we can help and how we can support. I think it's amazing. And that just goes to how much cancer patients have influenced me in my journey. And I just think, hope, it sounds cheesy, but hope is the number one thing. And that's what clinical trials means to me. It's some hope we can give someone.
Yeah, I got to say, when someone comes through the doors, especially with good news here at the Victory Center, we've got a building full of cheerleaders. You'd never believe the celebrations that get thrown for someone who's got, a clean bill of health or a clear scan or a birthday or an anniversary. There are celebrations constantly around here. And I love to hear that you're experiencing that as well, because working with cancer patients and cancer survivors is a really incredible thing that I think we all get the honor of doing. And it's a privilege. So I'd love to hear that. Rhonda, tell me a little bit about I love the science behind it. So tell me a little bit about, maybe start to finish, what a clinical trial looks like from your perspective.
Well, cancer patients have, like I said, so many different options. So it just depends on the trial that you're in. So let's say you want to go into a pharmaceutical trial. Usually, your doctor will be working with you. Say your issue is nausea. That's a very common symptom for oncology patients. Maybe there's a trial that we have open that you can enroll in, and it gives a certain medication regime before your chemo. So what would happen is you would talk to your doctor, or he would realize that these are the symptoms you're having. You're having more nausea, and they would send you over to a clinical research nurse. So what that clinical research nurse did is she's going to get all kinds of information. And every clinical trial has what's called a protocol. So there's inclusion criteria that you have to meet to be included in a clinical trial. And then of course there's exclusionary criteria that you have to meet. That if you meet, you're not going to be eligible for that study. So that clinical nurse will go through that list, and then she will also go through that list with the physician. The physician will look that over and say if that patient is eligible or not eligible for that particular trial. So let's say that patient goes on, they are eligible, then we just follow whatever the protocol entails. So sometimes it's like pre-med, it's blood work or a CT scan, or maybe it's just getting a really good history and asking a survey question like about the symptoms. And so we are always gauging the symptoms and are they getting better with the treatment? And then collecting lots and lots of information behind the scenes, like your lab work and how you're responding to your chemotherapy, things like that. And if there is anything that would be adverse in a study, like, no, it didn't work, so that's an adverse effect. It didn't help your nausea. So we would take all that data and put it into the clinical trial. And depending on what kind of trial you're in, some trials follow our patients throughout their entire lifetime and collect data. And sometimes trials are just, 90 days, a year, 2 years, and we are collecting data. And you'll meet like at regular times with your clinical research nurse to collect information, or if there, again, is blood work or any other testing that you need to be done, they're working with the physician to get that accomplished. So it's hard to say because every clinical trial is different and has, different expectations. So some may, you may only talk on the phone with your clinical research nurse and then get text messages for support. Or some things are like you see your clinical research nurse every 2 weeks when you're getting your treatment. So they all vary, but that's why our clinical research nurses are so valuable. They have all that information and are really good about explaining it to you.
Lori, this stuff is happening in our community?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, huh?
We're not just treating the patient, we're treating the future patients and hopefully eradicating things that are affecting people right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool how, to your point, that patients undergoing clinical trials or taking part in research, like they're really paying it forward. They're doing something that will affect future patients. And it's, yeah, in our community, I think a common misconception people have is that you have to go to a much larger city or a large academic institution to have access to, clinical research and trials and whatnot, but you don't. We have it right here in your backyard.
That's amazing.
Just super cool, especially, a lot of people just respond differently to treatment in different ways, and having to travel, I mean, not the most comfortable thing for cancer patients to be in the car for a long time or to feel disconnected from home. So I'm glad that we have this for patients locally.
Yes, in clinical research, we're always saying how our patients are our heroes, because sometimes they take on clinical research trials that really won't improve their outcome. They can be a patient that could be receiving a medication, or maybe they're receiving a placebo. So this is not really always to treat. It's more in oncology, we use it for treatment, But in other cases, like they could be receiving a placebo, but you know what? They are so interested in helping the future patients that they allow us to help them along and put them in a trial. And it's just always amazing. And we get really great respect for those people who decide to be in a clinical trial, because you're right, they're affecting the future patient and affecting a bunch of people that they will never meet. And that is just really a gift of love.
Wonderful. I'm sure you do come across patients who have these little nuances. Nobody is the same, right? So what is your advice, Rhonda, if someone's involved in a clinical trial and it doesn't work out for them, or if they want to try multiple clinical trials and see what is best for them? And as you said, sort of pay it forward and give it to the future patient as someone who's going to go through this process right now.
I would say always keep close contact with your clinical trial nurse, with your nurse navigator, and of course with your physician. Those are the top 3 people who are on your care team, who know all kinds of things about you. They know your lab work, they know your history, they know what medications you're on, they know what medications don't agree with you. Those are the people who are really going to be excellent to leading you into the right way. So let's say you do take an oncology study and it's about nausea and it didn't work for you and the study comes to end. So we don't usually do simultaneous studies, but that study comes to the end and now you're wanting to like be a part of a different study. So maybe increase the communication with your physician, like that type of a study, or now we went back to smoking, let's say, and you want to go back into smoking cessation. Obviously, yes, those are things we can definitely have you apply to those, and we will look through your inclusion and exclusion criteria and definitely, see if you fit. I know with some of our pulmonary studies, like COPD people and people who have lung disease, they come back to us after their studies are done and do another study because they're just so happy about giving, just giving of themselves and hoping to find a cure for whatever disease they're, coming to us with. So
it's so nice to know that you aren't alone in being dedicated to those results, but the folks who are actually going through the studies are dedicated to that as well.
Yes, definitely.
Can you tell us, can you share with us maybe a little anecdote or a success story that you like to think about?
Well, this is, I guess, one of the newest ones that we had here. We have a device that helps with patients who have congestive heart failure, so CHF. So that's a cardiac study that we've been doing. This product is actually coming to market now. One of the very first time I did this lady, she had CHF for many years and had, swelling of the feet. It's kind of like a normal symptom, things like that. She came in to her first appointment just for her checkup. And she told our clinical research nurse, it's the first time my feet have felt warm in years. She's like, I can walk better. I can handle going up the steps. It was amazing just in a week after her procedure to see how the blood flow had, how the heart had been pumping. So the blood flow would get long all the way to her toes now instead of kind of stopping in the middle somewhere. So that was one of the most amazing things that we've had happen recently. I know this we have a long history in clinical trials at St. Vincent's, and it started about 40 years ago. And some of our seasoned nurses will talk about like, oh yeah, we were there for that trial. Oh yeah, we got that COPD medication approved. Oh yeah, we did that. So like, it's so amazing to see that.
Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah. Like I was like, oh wow, we were involved in that study, we were involved in that study, and now we're using it, standard of care. So that's kind of amazing.
Yeah, really fantastic. We obviously hope for a world without cancer and ailments and diseases. And Rhonda, you're on the front lines. So thank you for that. And thanks for joining us today.
You're so welcome.
Can you give me that phone number one more time if people have interest?
Here, our clinical research office is 419-251-4919.
Thank you so much. And thanks, Lori. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.